Ecuador has officially qualified to the World Cup. In this video, I will be going over my thoughts about the game, a couple of things that stuck out to me, and also share my thoughts on what I think should happen from this point forward as we prepare for the upcoming World Cup. To start, I think Beccacece made a reasonable starting lineup. He had Pervis, Hincapié, Pacho, and Ordóñez in the back. In the middle, he had Angulo, Vite, Caicedo, and Franco. And up top, he had Yeboah and Rodriguez. It was clear that Beccacece realized that having Yeboah alone up there or having him as a false nine was not the best approach, and he had Rodriguez up there, which helped out a lot for my opinion. I think that there's a lot to work on with Rodriguez, but just having a high work rate up there, it makes a huge difference. And Yeboah at times found himself with spaces to shoot, and he did take those shots. Unfortunately, they weren't on target. I think that maybe he was just too quick on it, and he realized he had the opportunity and was excited to shoot, and he based his shot more on direction as opposed to accuracy. Maybe didn't keep his eye on too much on where the goalie was or where the goal was, but just maybe position his body to where the ball should go. The biggest question mark was seeing Franco on the right mid, especially when the manager put Ordóñez on the right back. It was two very defensive players playing from our right wing. Thankfully, since we didn't have such an attacking right side, on the left side we had Angulo that had a better performance today than he did versus Brazil. I know that I saw a comment that someone said, well, he still didn't score. Yeah, he didn't score, but I think he managed to get shots this time around, and he was offside by a little bit, I would say, when he got that goal called as offside. So I think he was very threatening, and it's going to be interesting, at least for me, to see how this plays out. I'm not going to be too quick to say that, he's better than Sarmiento, but I think he has made an argument for that. I think that as long as Nison Angulo keeps his level up and is improving more, I don't think we're going to see Sarmiento in this lineup again. To start the game, I think we had the right approach in terms of trying to find an early goal, and we almost had it with Yeboah. It was by a little bit that he missed. Caicedo also took a shot, but Peru was, I think that may have caught Peru off guard a little bit, and it kind of set the tone with how they would defend that game. But I think it was still a fresh Peru. They were still ready to attack themselves, and they weren't tired at all. So we saw a very intense Peru. I think it was a very, very physical Peru. There were even moments where maybe the ref should have called fouls, but he didn't. But on the attack, we saw a very high-pressing Peru at times. But we all knew that maybe that was going to be difficult to try to maintain, especially with the players that they have at the age that they have and the level of fitness compared to the Ecuador team. So at least for the first half, they did what they had to do, and that was cause us to make mistakes and attack us in moments of transition. In the second half, we saw Peru just not have the same energy, not have the same intensity, while Ecuador did. So we managed to control the game in the second half. I think we did good with maintaining possession and, for the most part, just trying to be a little bit more patient with the ball. But I think that we missed out a lot from the attacking midfield. I think that while we maybe had the striker or maybe had the players in the attacking zones, Peru played a system where they did not press as high anymore. They weren't so quick to kind of just come and press us when we had the ball in the center mid, like Vite, like Caicedo. They just kind of lingered in the back and just waited for us to try to make that penetration or to try to make those through balls. And they were solid in the back, so that's one of the biggest reasons why we weren't able to have as clear of opportunities as Peru did in the first half. we did have, at least that I can remember, 2 occasions that we managed to get the ball behind the defenders' backs. The first one, I think, was the goal that was ruled offside with Nilson Angulo. And the second one was when Zambrano and Rodriguez had that runoff. And I think that that's what Peru was trying to avoid, and I think that that's where maybe we could have capitalized on. We should have been at least Caicedo, Vite. I wanted them to maybe find ways to create more spaces by waiting or holding on to the ball a little bit more, and have Peru kind of the defensive line push up more as we created spaces behind them. But we didn't see that. We didn't see the creativity there that much today. It also didn't help to have Franco on the right mid, who we know isn't going to try to take players one-on-one. He's a very low risk player that he is going to want to just play it safe and keep the ball moving. So we missed out a lot on the right, and I don't know why Beccacece took so long to make the sub. He had the yellow already, and he's a defensive-minded player, so he's gonna try to win anything he can, and one of those he had to slip up. But before the red card, he put Ener Valencia in for Kevin Rodriguez, which was an understandable substitution. Rodriguez was just technically not there. Again, he's a very high work rate player, but you can't rely on him to help you keep possession or to try to out-dribble a defender. So maybe Ened would have been able to do a little bit better, even though I don't consider Ened Valencia a technical player either. In the second half, after the red card, the manager made some substitutions where he took out Yeboah, who was gassed, and he put in Baez. He also took out Nilson Angulo and Preciado. And it was a little bit strange, I would say, because if Franco gets red carded, I would have thought maybe he would probably want a more defensive-minded midfielder in the middle. But he put in Baez, which was a big risk if you ask me. I mean, I don't know. I guess he just wanted him to have minutes, and he was willing to take that risk. I'm just happy it didn't backfire on him. Preciado, obviously a defender with the ability to push high, so I could kind of understand that, and we were missing that on the right mid. So that was all right, but I know that a lot of people are happy to see Baez get some minutes. I'm just not 100% convinced that was the right moment to do it. After that, the manager tried to balance out the defense a little bit more with taking out Beccacece Estupiñán and putting in Torres and moving Hincapié to the left back position. Even though that overall this was a game that could have gone either way, I think it was very promising to see Ecuador being able to dominate Peru at times. But one thing we have to think about is when you try to compare both of them to the level of chemistry that they showed, I think that Peru was superior. And I don't think that this is a result of their manager, though. I think that this is a result of them just being with each other for so long, and I don't know, maybe that's what Beccacece is aiming for chemistry, aiming for understanding, and that's why maybe he's so big on just trying to keep his group. But I mean, it could also backfire in many ways. But like I said, overall this was a game that could have gone either way. I think that if we would have seen a more attacking right wing, this would have been different. I probably would have liked to see Mercado on the field at some point too. I mean, his last 2 games with his club in Portugal, he assisted twice, so it would have been nice to see him make those runs down the wing and just play them in, play some passes in the box and just see what happens. But we didn't see that. From this point forward, there's a lot to work on, especially in the attack. And I think that that's kind of why, at least for Ecuador fans, we're grateful, we're happy to be in another World Cup, but at the same time, it's a bit concerning. I mean, just reflecting on how we weren't able to score on the two worst teams of South America, Chile and Peru. We weren't able to score on them. I think it's very alarming. We know we have at least 3 games coming up. We have the next 2 qualifying games, the last 2 qualifying games, versus Paraguay and versus Argentina. We also have a friendly versus Mexico in Mexico. It's good to approach these games without the burden of still having to try to qualify. So I know all fans are going to be hoping to see the manager try to find alternatives for attack and try to just have a clear understanding of how we want to attack, because the issue isn't from our defensive line connecting with our midfield line, but it's a lot having to do with our midfield line connecting with our attacking line, and specifically the 2 connections of being the wingers to center attackers or the center midfielders to the center attacker. If you think about it, this might be just the best opportunity to work on this now that the seasons are over in Europe. Maybe the players would want to be able to come to the country and work on the tactical aspect and the attack with the manager. The manager could also just focus on domestic league players that still have their season going, and just use these upcoming games as opportunities to try something that he hasn't tried before, maybe a completely different tactical approach from the attack, maybe not having Franco on the right, because we're going to play against Paraguay, who still hasn't qualified, so they're going to, go all out, and we're playing against Argentina, who is always going to try to win anyway, so these are fantastic opportunities, and it would be a shame to kind of see the same thing going on.